Okay, hello everyone. So we've agreed that I'm going to start. So as Professor Rowiński has introduced me already, my name is Kinga and I work here in this very building at the Institute of Philosophy and Sociology of the Polish Academy of Sciences. And as you might know, or as you might have heard, we currently live in the era of post-truth, where facts have been replaced with, allegedly, with allegations, insinuations, guesses, ideas, and reason with emotions. And under these circumstances, as a media and communication scholar, I look at how journalists, specifically Polish journalists, how they navigate this crisis, but in a way in which they construct the notions of truth and reality in their reporting. So over to you, Souvik.
Yeah, thanks, Kinga. Yeah, so I am a nuclear physicist by profession. And so I basically work on unraveling the mysteries of the cosmos to understand how the Big Bang was created. We try to simulate in the laboratory the Big Bang conditions to understand the very basic nature of how we came into existence and what is the complex structure of matter. So Kinga, what does it mean to be actually a social scientist?
I will try to answer this with a story. So I have a 3-year-old son. And as you might know, at this age, children are very curious and they ask all sorts of questions, but most of those questions boil down to the question why. So he would ask me why about everything that happens around him, about everything that is said and done and whatnot. So our typical walk to the daycare in the morning, we walk for about 25 minutes. And we would have 2 such conversations. So the first one would go like, we pass garbage bins essentially, and there are pigeons there just picking up stuff from the garbage. So he asks me, or he says, look, pigeons over there, why do they get things from trash? So I would tell him that, well, that's because they need to eat. Why do they need to eat? To sustain themselves. But why do they eat from trash? And this is a moment at which I start to explain that because we humans, we are invasive species and we invaded the space that they used to live in, and we have removed all sorts of sources of food from them, and now they have to live off whatever basically is left. And then he loses interest. But a little bit later, we try to cross the street, but there is an ambulance coming at a speed with a siren on, and he would say, "Oh, there's an ambulance. Why does it have a siren on? Because they are taking patient to the hospital and they are in hurry. Why? Because somebody is feeling unwell and they want to save them, treat them, help them." Why? Because we as a society are at the stage at the moment where we consider human lives valuable and we try to save every one of them, if not for us, then because they are important for somebody else, and so on and so forth. And after some time, he would say, oh, look, pigeons. So what I'm getting at is basically that a person, a regular parent, I suppose, at some point would just say that, would answer to a question, why? Just because, or because I say so. But I take this question seriously. And even though he's not really interested in those serious answers, as a social scientist, you grasp onto every opportunity to talk about, to launch into this kind of societal analysis. And I would say that this is what it means to be a social scientist, to kind of use every opportunity to try and understand better our societies and our realities and what's happening around us, and also trying to make other people maybe to think about that more. Yeah, I'm not sure if a 3-year-old is the best audience for that, but nonetheless, I cannot sort of contain myself. But now, Souvik, I would like you, since you're from a very different discipline, I would like you to tell us what your typical day as a theoretical physicist looked like.
So, Kinga, so everyone, so basically, it looks on the contrary, like to you, it looks very boring because I go to my office, sit in front of my desktop and start typing in Google to look at the recent literatures and the recent papers, but with a coffee, because coffee lets you to go into the groove of things to start everything. But then the thing I find interesting is that with the pen and paper, the calculations I do, and for my experiments that happens in this large Hadron Collider based in Switzerland, which is, as you might all be knowing, it is one of the largest experiments on the Earth. So which is unraveling how recreating the Big Bang conditions inside a laboratory. So it tries to understand the origins of the universe. So there are typically 10,000 scientists and engineers working on these massive colliders all from throughout the world. And then when I see my novel equations on my pen and paper calculations matching with the data from such hadron colliders, then that's a kind of a nice experience and a satisfaction for me, which I derive sitting in my laboratory or in front of my desktop. This is a kind of a typical day that looks for me. So Kinga, can you describe like what kind of encouraged you to be a social scientist in the first place?
Yeah, so I would like to start by saying that I'm the first person to pursue an academic career in my family. So it's not that it has really been presented to me as an option, but it hasn't been presented as not an option either. So what I'm trying to say is that it was a little bit of just a force of things and a little bit force of inertia and so on, because during my graduate studies, so when I was doing my master's, and that was, I'm originally from Poland, as you might have gathered, but I did my master's in Finland at the University of Helsinki, and at that moment I really understood, or I really found something that I was very curious about and wanted to continue learning about more. So it was this curiosity and the willingness to kind of continue learning that pushed me in that direction. I basically didn't want to let go of an opportunity to find out more and understand more about, again, the society and the reality around us. Yeah, this is essentially what pushed me to become a social scientist. And I think that this is what you need. You need a curiosity and you need a will to learn. This is what scientists need, researchers, social researchers, at least. And I think that these are basically the main things you need. So you need a certain level, perhaps, of some academic achievement, but it's not essential, really. So what I'm also trying to say is that I became a social scientist or a researcher because nobody ever told me that I couldn't. So if any one of you needs to hear that, and I don't know if you do, but if anyone here needs to hear that, you know, like, you don't need anybody's permission, you don't need anybody's encouragement to pursue academic career. So if you feel that this is your dream and you want to keep on learning and you want to, and you are curious and there is something that you're genuinely curious about, I say that that's basically all you need. Yes, but as we know, there are some failures, or a lot of failures, in our daily dealings with science, and there is also a lot of self-doubt. So I wanted to ask Souvik, or I would like Souvik to reflect on how he manages that in his research.
Yes. So let me say that there are quite a failures when the things don't go well accordingly as you planned. And it's very important to manage these failures, because this kind of, you have to push yourself forward to overcome these failures and every time try something new, so that you don't delve into your past things. So let me share you a very kind of experience with you all from my personal life. Is that so? During my school days also, there was instances of self-doubt inside me, like if I am at all competent enough to pursue a career in science. And it also happened in that way, is that there was this science congress taking place in my city. I am from Kolkata in India, so there was a science congress where many eminent scientists from all over India, as well as from outside, there were a few Nobel laureates who also came to that meeting. And it happened like I was not selected to go for this science meeting. So after that, I kind of also knew in my mind that someday maybe there was a chance that I would be be a part of this nice meetings that takes place every year. It happened that during my doctoral years, I was kind of not selected, but invited to get into this meeting because of my interest in science and my career in science. So you see that life goes in full circles, and it's not the failures that define us. We have to push ourselves forward to make something meaningful and make something impactful in our lives. That's all I have to say about failures.
Okay, so I guess we agreed that now we are going to try to wrap up. And it really took me ages to figure out like how to close this on my part. And I think it was this morning at the 5 a.m. train when I kind of finally figured out that I will try to link together the topic of my research, so something about reality and truth, with what I have been talking about thus far. So as a researcher, as a social researcher, you learn that there is that actually post-truth is a little bit of a misguided concept, and generally this is not a kind of problem that we are living with or dealing with. But there are multiple truths in the world, which is not to say that there isn't a reality that is the same for everyone, and which is not to say that there are some facts that we have to come to terms with and accept in our lives, but it is to say that truth is something more than facts. It's about interpretation of those facts. And this very often is bound with personal experience and so on. So as a social researcher, you understand pretty quickly that in fact there are multiple truths in the world, in the society. I think that my goal or my hope as a social researcher is to bring some of those truths to light, or as many of them as possible, and then most of all, like, learn from them and try to make, in doing so, try to make the world a better place, or at least become a better person myself. So I would say that this is also one thing that you can get from social science. You can, become a better person. So do you have any final takeaway message?
Yes, so I think many of you have watched The Big Bang Theory, right? You know Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory? Yeah, so I might not be that smart like Sheldon, but I like to follow some of Sheldon's advice, because he was also a theoretical physicist who was engrossed in unraveling the mysteries of the cosmos. And so, Sheldon used to say, he only believes in himself, listens to his inner voice, and follows that. That's the greatest thing he has ever done. So I would like to tell everyone, just follow your inner voice, stay curious, and life will have many kind of presents for you in future. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys, very much. You could see two people from completely different parts of the world, and they are normal people, and although scientists, and you can see, and this is what I could learn from the talk, that everybody who has some curiosity can play and can be a researcher. So that's something that we could really learn from this talk. Anybody of you has a question or would like to comment on it, or would like to say about your dreams, or that you would like to work with these guys? And don't be afraid of.
Just raise your hand.
You can even raise it a bit. So I know the first is the most difficult. I don't want to indicate who is going to...
I have a question to Kinga. How, because what I've learned is that we have multiple truths. How to live with it? How do you live with it? Do you choose any, or you just agree with that there are so many truths and there is no one, final truth in your life?
Yeah, I guess you need to accept that there are multiple truths, and this is the first thing that you need to do, because there can be one truth in your life, but it's not going to make other people's truths the same, or it's not going to make, it's not necessarily going to resonate with other people, because as I said, truth is about interpretation, I think, your interpretation also always depends on the place you see it, on your point of view, and where you see things from, and on your personal experience, and so on. And those are different for everyone. So I guess that you just need to accept that, that there are multiple truths, and your truth is not the only truth, and other people have other truths. But at the same time, this is not to say that these personal truths are morally neutral. So we need to bear in mind that some truths might be true to someone, but they are harmful. And we have to recognize that. And we have to act on that, not on the fact that they are not true, but on the fact that they might be harmful in one way or another.
Okay, so then I have a question to Souvik.
Yeah, sure.
So, multiple truth. This is something that you deal with in physics as well. So, and also the word that we could learn from Kinga, post-truth. What is post-truth in physics?
Yeah, so to make a connection, multiple truth, I would like to say that we have the data coming from particle colliders, and there are multiple theoretical models to satisfy that, but they don't work exactly well in different regions. So the models for the theoretical calculation, they might be all in their different, all in their own capabilities might be correct, but they are not sufficient. So these multiple kind of models that are exactly mathematically very kind of right, they might not satisfy the data that we know today. So these are the kind of things that we leave, and we have to try again and again to refine our calculations, understand new things. Maybe some new physics comes up in the next decade or so to just say everything that we learned is wrong, and we have to start all over again. So this is the kind of probabilities that we have to live with. That's all I have to say, yeah.
Completely different worlds. So maybe still one of you would like to start asking questions? Yes, please. Fantastic. I will give you the microphone. Okay.
So I have a question about physics mostly, because I'm interested in it, and about the Hadron Collider, because I heard it is used to trying to measure the smallest known particle, and if I remember it was quarks, but you said that it was to check the conditions of the Big Bang, and how would that theoretically work in this Hadron Collider?
Yeah, thanks for bringing this great question. So, yeah. So, the Hadron Collider is that we know like the smallest undivisible thing is the atom, right? That's what you learn in the high schools, but there's a catch to that. So in the last 50 years, there has been a development on that, is that you can divide the proton or the neutron to the quarks and the gluons. So those are the kind of the fundamental particles right now. What the Hadron Collider does is that it smashes two, let's say, lead ions or heavy ions together. And from the Einstein's principle, energy and mass are interchangeable. So if you smash two particles at very high energies or very high velocity, they get transferred to energy. And they kind of create a kind of a plasma or kind of an intermediate state of matter. This is exactly the kind of matter, this is called the Quark Gluon Plasma. This is exactly the kind of matter that was formed when the Big Bang or the universe was created. So it's like going backwards in time. Either you increase the energy so that you can go backwards in time and you can recreate that kind of a state of matter for a very short amount of time inside your laboratory and make cool experiments and measurements from that. That's what's the reason or the actual physics principle behind the Hadron Colliders.
Okay. Do you learn about colliders at school? No. No, you don't. Anybody else?
So I would just like to add is the CERN, the LHC CERN where it takes place, it has a very nice program for high school students. So anyone can apply to that, they take and go over there, have a nice exposure, spend some time, learn new things and get used to that, just to share this information with everyone. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. I think we will switch to another pair. Or you still have a question? Please go ahead.
Yeah, so at first I wanted to ask you about the day in the office, but my question has been already answered. But you said you perform research on a basic work day, but how do you search for those articles you read? Like maybe, wait a second, I need to think how to ask the question. Because you read some articles and stuff, but what source do you go for? Because I don't really think you just take a random ass article from, I don't know, some gossiping website. So,
Right.
yeah.
So this is the era of like open science. So every kind of research that goes on anywhere in the world, it kind of gets published and put on a kind of a common repository where everyone can have access to that. And this is for free. So first of all, one thing is that you have to stay updated with the kind of research most of the people in your near kind of expertise are performing. So once you know that what kind of research goes on and what kind of people are getting used to equations and stuff like that, then you kind of also learn that, first of all, is learn and reproducing those things. And then is putting in your own extra effort or own ingredients into doing some new things with that. And also, like, once this is from the theoretical point of view. And from the experimental point of view, so when the experiments takes place and they have all this kind of data, and that's a huge amount of data. And there is a kind of a repository also for that. So you could kind of go to that repository, download that data, learn with that, and then you can make some predictions or kind of tally your theoretical models with those data and to see if you are right or wrong. So this is a kind of a whole process of learning from what previously people has done, what recently people are doing, as well as what extra effort that you can put in. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, please.
Yeah, allow me to add a few things to Souvik's response. Actually, while searching in the literature, you can have some literature onto the Web of Science as well as SciFinder. You can use those websites, okay? So depending on your research areas, what kind of research areas you are achieving. So in that direction, you can have a Web of Science and SciFinder as well as other publishers also there like ACS and even Wiley. So you can use those platforms, yeah.
Okay, we have one more question. Somewhere here, that's...
So I have a question as a person that is not really in the field of science yet, but is quite interested in it. You see, science is like kind of viewed as it has been sort of commercialized, as in you mostly do research on stuff that can be applied to commercial uses. So for example, like energy and how to make cheaper energy and stuff. My question is, how much do you feel there are still like fundamental questions about the world that are still unanswered, but are actually worked on? So not really questions that are purely theoretical and maybe unsolvable, but things that are actually being worked on that are more interesting than just how to make more money.
Sure. Yeah. So let me first ask you is that if you open your mobile phone and type in the website, it says www something, right? Do you know what is the kind of story behind this www, the World Wide Web? It was kind of created in CERN, this Large Hadron Collider, because physicists needed to transfer data between themselves, a huge amount of data. So the World Wide Web was created in CERN just for some entirely different purpose, to understand, as you said, like to understand in pursuit of theoretical knowledge, as well as experimental data, but that was the purpose of that. However, the field of science we promoted this for the better of the humanity and described it for the worldwide science. So we now can use the internet today. This is one of the kind of byproducts of the basic research that is very crucial for everyone, for us. So once you target once we target ourselves to kind of path-breaking research or in the fundamental level, so the byproducts like the World Wide Web, the NMR, in the medical physics also, that has huge implications from these particle colliders. That are the byproducts that are also very crucial to understand, and it has benefited all of us. So like pursuing fundamental research is very, very, very important, just because it provides us a benchmark to understand new things which haven't been done before. And the applications kind of are derived from those things.
I would like to speak to that too, from my very different point of view. I mean, the space for fundamental research, basic research, fundamental questions is shrinking in science, as you observed very correctly. The drive towards applied science is very strong, and like humanities suffer. This is where space for humanities is shrinking. Social sciences too, but a little bit less so at the moment, because we are just thinking about applications. So basically, how to use science to make money, and this is also what the universities promote. But there are pockets. There are places where you can still conduct basic research. There are institutes that are designed and function just for that, but it's difficult. It's difficult because then you have these very scattered fellowships, and putting a coherent career trajectory, or putting a coherent tenure and sustainable income using, from these sources it's very tough. So I think it's a really important question, and thank you for asking it. But I would like to go back very briefly before we wrap up to something that Professor Rawiński said, that there is, when it comes to questions of truth, those are two different worlds. Well, I disagree, because we are talking about two different levels. So what Souvik does is working at the level of empirical facts and empirical reality, and something that can be proven beyond doubt. And so at some point, possibly yes. At some point, eventually. So this is beyond kind of dispute. So this is not what post-truth kind of refers to, I guess. But it's about how we make sense of this and what we do with that. So how we interpret these facts and what we do. You might have seen a meme some time ago, some years ago, where there was. They recreated, they brought dinosaurs back to life, and there was a question like, why would they do it, or who did that? And the answer was that technology, like the people in science and technology, but why would they do that? Because they never asked social scientists about what would be the consequences. And there was basically the picture where a dinosaur was chasing a person. So I don't think that it makes sense to pit these two disciplines and approaches against each other, because I think they should be working in tandem in many ways.
Thank you very much. It seems we still have a question, please.
Hello. I would like to ask about something quite unrelated to what you talked before. Mostly about space and Big Bang. I'm not sure if it's a myth, but I heard that you can look in space, look in the past in space due to the light traveling slower. And I would like to ask if you can look at celestial objects that don't exist anymore, can you also take from space some data to work on the Big Bang and see how it was? I don't know how it happened. Can it be a resource for that?
Yes, but a very nice question, yeah. So you are from a very young generation, but maybe someone from the previous generation, if we had those kind of analog TVs, and if the signal didn't came, there was this black and white patches coming up. So, yes. So there was this black and white patches up when there was no signal. So did you ever wonder what was that? Maybe if there is no signal, these black and white patches used to come up. So it's basically it is known in physics as the cosmic microwave background radiation. So it is when the Big Bang was formed, supposedly, we never saw it actually. So supposedly when the Big Bang was formed, and there was this kind of light that was created in that. And the Doppler shift in frequency, when there is a light source or the sound source coming, you get to hear less and less amount of sound, like a train passing by. So it also happened for light as well. And when this light was created during that Big Bang time, and it got shifted in the frequency to a very small level. So that was picked up by the TVs at that time. So that basically is a kind of a conclusive evidence that at some point of time, this whole universe that we know today was in a kind of a singularity for the creation of the Big Bang. And when the universe kind of expanded, matter was created and all the planets, solar system, and everything formed as we know today.
Okay, you know whom he meant when he said previous generation. Okay, one more question.
I have a quick question about the Quark Gluon Plasma itself, like the state of matter, because I haven't been keeping up with it like for the past, let's say, year, but are we able to create it now on Earth? Because the last time I checked, we knew that it is a state of matter, but we couldn't like try to produce it on Earth just because it needs to be a very condensed space where the quarks can just pass between atoms. So can we do that now?
Yes, actually we can do that now. I think it was the Quark Gluon Plasma was first detected in 2010. So, and after that there has been a series of experiments where there is a conclusive evidence of the creation of this state of matter, the Quark Gluon Plasma. But it is a very kind of a short-lived stage. And what we get to understand from experiments is that the kind of after the particles that are created. So I will quickly wrap this up. So when the heavy ions, let's say the lead ions or the gold ions are collided, and then before the collision and after the collision, we check the particles. So before the collision, there was this lead ions or the gold ions with which you started the acceleration of the particles. But after the collision, you have a completely new set of different exotic particles created up. So this basically says at some point of time, everything got mixed up at the level of these quarks and the gluons, leading to the creation of this new kind of particles as it cooled down gradually. And there is a very conclusive evidence for that. And so we know exactly now that the Quark Gluon Plasma has been formed.
Okay, you can see that whatever they do, it's curiosity-driven, and I'm curious what next pair is going to say. So thank you so much, and let's applaud them again.